Welcome to the Direct Line powered by 10Bet. I'm Nico Kritsiotis for episode 11 of our show, and you'll see that I am not shaven today. And the particular reason for that is because I've decided to join Movember. Movember is a movement worldwide that donates money to men's health. And I've decided to join it, so we'll be sharing those links, how you can donate money to men's health as well, with hopefully me getting a moustache during the course of the next 4 weeks or so. We'll see how that develops over time. On today's show, we'll have a masterclass in how to read the computer form. Now, the computer form is effectively the racing Bible. It is where punters go to study up on the racing that is taking place. And they print a computer form for every race meeting here in South Africa. So I'll be doing a masterclass on that for the first part of the show. In Nico's notebook later on, we'll go through some racing results around the world over the past weekend. We had the running of the Breeders' Cup over at Del Mar Racecourse in California. We'll be going through all those results. We'll also be taking a look at the Melbourne Cup, which was run on the first Tuesday in November. And then we'll be looking ahead to the upcoming Summer Cup, which runs on Saturday, the 29th of November. I'll be looking at the latest betting and what horses that you can follow over the next few weeks, what maybe you can have a punt on as we approach the big race, which is worth 6 million rand. That's all coming up on the Direct Line, powered by 10Bet. So welcome to the show. And the first bit of today's show is focusing on a masterclass on how to read this particular publication called the computer form. It shows you all the form for the particular race meeting taking place in South Africa on the day. It is pretty vast in terms of what information is included in it. And I wanted to go through some of the parts that you need to concentrate on in order to familiarize yourself with what is happening in the world of horse racing and how you can equip yourselves better in trying to pick a winner in any particular race. So I'll be speaking about this in a second, but what you need to know is the basics, firstly, to get started. And I know a lot of people out there aren't familiar with horse racing. We're trying to introduce people towards the sport of horse racing and not to make it so daunting. So therefore, hopefully, by the end of this particular session, you'll be able to pick yourself your own winners. Okay, so let's go through it. This is the computer form. It is horse racing's premier form guide. It is what I have used since I started following racing when I was 10 years old, and I'm now 55. So for 45 years, I have used this as my go-to publication to study and to find winners, okay? So this is the front cover. It shows you Wednesday, the 5th of November, and today's race meeting is at Fairview on the Poly Track. I've made a few notes over here, which are just my own particular notes, that today's race meeting, which is in Gqeberha, there's been no rainfall. The track is a poly track, therefore the going is classified as standard, and there is a false rail, which is where the rail comes out when the horse is turned for home, 3 meters out at the 421 meter marker. Now, let's go to a particular race that I want to show you. And I've opened up now to race number 3, okay? So don't get too bothered about this, because there's quite a lot of numbers that you'll see on this particular page, but I'm just going to point out what the pertinent bits are that you need to concentrate on when you're a beginner. So when you open the book, this is the third race. That's the time that the race is off. So today at 13:35 South African Standard Time, that race will run. This is the distance of the race over here, which is 1,600 meters, which in racing terms is classified as a mile. It shows you that it's a poly track, and a poly track is not turf. It is a synthetic surface which the horses run on. There are only 2 poly tracks in South Africa. One is at this particular racecourse in Gqeberha, and the other one is in KwaZulu-Natal at Greyville Racecourse. It shows you that the track is a right-hand turn, and it mentions that it's the Fairview Poly Track. Over here, you'll see the name of the race, and it's important because it classifies what type of horses can run in that race. You'll see that Racing 240, which is the name of the racing channel, that's the sponsor of this race. Maiden Plate And the F and M means fillies and mares. In other words, it's only for female horses that can participate in this race. Male horses aren't eligible to run here. Maiden plate, what does that mean? That means that no horse that's won a race is allowed in this race. This race is only for horses that have never won a race in their entire career. And underneath here, you'll see the gross stake of the race, that is the prize money, is 75,000 Rand. Distributed first prize, 44,531, and through until fifth prize. Underneath the section over here is the field. These are the horses that are going to run in the race. There are 7 horses running, and here are their names: Royal Mermaid, Golden Alexia, O'Mandy, Cedar Peak, Royal Missy, Lacrima Christie, and Lilac Heart. So 7 runners are due to run. Over here in this column here are the statistics of that horse. So if you look across at Royal Mermaid, you'll see 7 runs. None of them have won. Remember, this race is a maiden plate. So you'll see under 1, no horses have won, second and third. So it gives you the runs, wins, seconds, and thirds, and then the amount of money that the horses have earned in their career. Here is the trainer of the horse, and here is the jockey of the horse. And basically, that's what I'm going to leave you with in this particular section. But I'm going to show you, if you look at the extended form, because now that was the field that I showed you. Now you can go into each horse's form. So 1 is Royal Mermaid. Now, the reason why I put a line through Golden Alexia, because Golden Alexia has been scratched. In other words, something is wrong with Golden Alexia today, and she cannot run. So the trainer has scratched her from the particular race. So instead of having 7 runners now, you have 6 runners to choose on who can be the winner. Now, if we go to this horse over here, let's go to this horse number 5, Royal Missy. Once again, we showed you in the beginning the names of the horses that were running. Royal Missy. Now you can go into each horse and look at its particular details. So here's Royal Missy. That's its number saddlecloth that you can bet on. And over here is the age of the horse, the color of the horse, and the sex of the horse. This is a 3-year-old bay filly. That's its father, Royal Mo. That's its mother, Missy J. And that is its grandfather on the mother's side. So that's its parentage. This is the name of the trainer. Here is the jockey's name, Chad Little. And then you come down here and you'll see that it has had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 runs. And here in this column here are where it's finished: 4th, 5th, 8th, 5th, and 2nd. And you can see how many lengths behind it is run. A length, by the way, is the length of the horse, is the dimension between the horse's nose and the end of the body, which is a length of a horse. So in other words, when I commentate and I say so-and-so is 8 lengths behind the leader, it means 8 horse lengths. That shows you where the horse is in relation to the front horse. So if you look at Royal Missy, last time it ran was on the 12th of September, 2025. It ran at Fairview on the poly track. It ran over this distance and it ran second. It was beaten half a length by a horse called Gentile. My feeling on this particular race on this day, and we'll confirm it when we do the show next time, is that Royal Missy will win this race purely because of her last run over the same course and distance where she ran well. And should she repeat that run, she should win it. Now, this is a long process to learn how to read the computer form. As I say, I started when I was very young and I'm now quite old. And the point being is that there's a lot of information contained in here, and we'll be going through these on various master classes here on this show so you can learn more about how to study form. But that's basically it. It's the computer form, and it's online. It's online. You can catch it online. You don't have to print it out. Well, you can print it out, but many people just use it online. I print it out because I'm pretty old school. So that's where we'll leave it for the masterclass on how to read the racing publication, the computer form, and we will see you again on the next one of these pretty soon. So Johannesburg's biggest race, the Summer Cup will be run on Saturday, the 29th of November. It's important because it is a race steeped in history here in Johannesburg. Now, there are various entry stages which come up for the race, and the betting is already open. The current betting will show a horse called the Equator, who was imported from the UK, to be the actual favorite at 2.5 to 1. Atticus Finch is at 4 to 1. Now, he won last year's race, and he won the lead-up race, the Allied Steel Road on a Mission Charity Mile, which was run last weekend, and therefore he is shortened in to be 4 to 1 second favorite. He is bidding for back-to-back wins in this feature. King Pals is a horse from KwaZulu-Natal, is at 7 to 1 third favorite. And then we come to an interesting horse, Legend of Arthur, who runs in this weekend's Victory Moon Stakes, which is run on Sunday, and he's at 10 to 1 along with Madison Valley. Otto Lucan is at 14 to 1. And then we have 3 horses at 16 to 1. They are the Ultimate King, Royal Victory, See It Again. 2 horses at 20 to 1, Olivia's Way and World of Alice. There have been 10 scratchings from the race. Now that means that those 10 horses, either the trainers now think that they are not adequately prepared for the race, or that they're not going to qualify for the race. So the trainers have decided to take it out. Remember that there are various entry stages for the Summer Cup, and any trainer can nominate any horse, but the later you leave it, the more expensive it is to enter a horse, which means that if you enter at a very late stage, it'll cost you more. But then again, you stand to win part of that 6 million rand of prize money that is on offer. So as I mentioned, 10 horses are scratched. Their names are Okavango, Fiery Pegasus, Confederate, Rule by Force, Greeting My Master, Poet's Warrior, Aristotle, Count Hutiku, Pumpkin Pie, and Inflame. Those 10 horses have actually been taken out by their various connections. But there have been 4 horses that have been supplemented into the race. And that is because either the trainers now feel that they are perfectly prepared for the race, or suddenly they put up a very good performance and the trainers now say they've got a good shot at making the final field of 20 runners. They are Anfield's Rocket, who ran 4th in the Charity Mile last weekend, My Best Shot, who ran 2nd in the Algoa Cup last weekend, Shoot the Rapids from KwaZulu-Natal, and Mastership are 4 extra entries in this year's Summer Cup. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, because there are various lead-up races coming up over the coming weekend and over the next 10 days or so, with the final field to be announced about 10 days before the 29th. So about the 19th or 20th, the final field will come out. And after that, we'll be getting various thoughts and various tips from our 10-bet ambassadors about what they feel might win the big one at the end of the month. It was a very busy weekend this last weekend of racing overseas, because we had the running of the Breeders' Cup race meeting, which is basically the World Championships of horse racing run in the USA in California. And it was run at a racecourse called Del Mar Racecourse. Now, we did have one South African horse which ran on the day. It unfortunately went out too quickly and ended up running last in its field in the Breeders' Cup Mile, which is worth a purse of $2 million. That race was eventually won by Notable Speech from the UK, which went over to America and won for Godolphin trainer Charlie Appleby and jockey William Buick. We also were meant to have another South African horse running in the Fillies and Mares turf race, a horse called Gimme Another, who was due to run over 2,200 meters, but unfortunately she was lame in the week prior to the final fields being announced, and her trainer, who we've had on this particular broadcast, decided to scratch her. That's Graham Motion, because she wasn't fit enough to run. But the big race on the evening, where 35,000 people flocked into Del Mar Racecourse, was the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic over 2,000 meters, a race worth $7 million American dollars. And it was won by a Japanese horse called Forever Young, who narrowly beat the local American hopes of Sierra Leone, fierceness and journalism. Now, Forever Young is trained and comes from a Japanese yard. The Japanese are very, very formidable when it comes to racing their horses in other countries. And they're certainly a big country that you have to look at closely when they enter horses running in places like Dubai, Hong Kong, America, or England, or even for that matter, Australia. So that was the Breeders' Cup run this past weekend. Well, it was like looking at how our South African boys are doing overseas, and that I mean by our jockeys and trainers. Now, we are represented very, very strongly in the strongest racing jurisdiction in the world, and that is in Hong Kong. And the stats, I was looking at them as of today, and our jockeys doing pretty well. Luke Ferraris is a very, very good rider and comes from a dynasty of racing personalities here in South Africa, and he is sitting second on the Hong Kong jockey log with 12 winners. Lyle Hewitson and Chris Teeton, who both graduated from the South African Jockey Academy, are sitting jointly on 9 winners and in 5th position on the log. The log is currently led by Australian rider Zach Burton, who's got a huge 29 winners to his credit after the season has been running for about a few months now. Trainer Brett Crawford is having his first season in Hong Kong. The former South African trainer has picked up 3 wins and a total of 10 places from only 26 runners. So Brett Crawford having a whale of a time there, because 50% of the horses that he has run have finished in the first 4, which is excellent for him. And hopefully, we've had him as well on this show. He can continue to fly the flag high, rather. Finally, I want to point out what happened in the Melbourne Cup, because that is known as the race that stops a nation in Australia. It's always run on the first Tuesday in November, and it was run this last Tuesday. It is a race worth 10 million Australian dollars, which equates, listen to this, to 113,445,243 rand as of today's exchange rate. It's a huge amount. And it was won by a horse called Half Yours, ridden by a female rider. Her name is Jamie Carr Mellum, and she is only the second rider in the history of the race, second female rider in the history of the race to ever win the race, the first having been Michelle Payne, who won it exactly 10 years ago in 2015. In fact, she also rode the same horse, Half Yours, to win the Caulfield Cup, which is a lead-up race to the Melbourne Cup, and it's the first female rider to win the Caulfield Cup and Melbourne Cup double. So well done to Jamie Mellum for winning the race on Tuesday. And that's where we'll leave it for this week's edition of The Direct Line, powered by 10Bet. Your host, Nico Graziotis, saying cheers, with the hope that you'll join us next week with a look at horse racing, both locally and abroad.